Last year when I uploaded my Christmas review of Big City Greens, there was another Christmas episode that was airing around the time. And to tell you the truth, when I first saw bits and pieces of it where the main characters are in a video game when it comes to virtual reality, I didn't have high hopes of it since I was new to the series. But considering I've watched all the episodes from seasons 1 through 3 and I'm into season 4, I have to admit that after watching this episode for preparation for this review, it made me appreciate that there was a lot more admission when it comes to the creativity of the virtual reality while the Greens and Remy are just trying to celebrate Christmas. But at the same time, since that virtual reality is still a video game at the end of the day, this really took inspiration from the Season 2 episode Level Up. When Cricket wants to play Outpost Infinity with Remy during Christmas, this results him missing out on his family traditions with the blizzard getting in the way, which means that he and Remy are snowed in. But this gave Cricket an idea that another virtual reality system is at his house for his family to be in so that they can celebrate Christmas in Outpost Infinity. And Outpost Infinity is the same thing as the farming game that Bill played from Level Up, except that there are enemies who will continue to appear more and more powerful as each time Remy tries to take them down. For me personally, in comparison to the Christmas episode that I reviewed last year, this is slightly better, but at the same time, I don't find these Christmas episodes from Big City Greens good. Like, the thing is, when it comes to the CGI, I understand it's a TV budget, and I understand that it's a difference compared to the CGI from Level Up, since that was supposed to be an actual game. But at the same time, I just don't like the idea of the characters being in 3D, when it comes to translation of 2D to 3D. Yes, Christmas specials and movies have these types of formulas when it comes to a character going into 3D or some sort when it comes to television, but at the same time, I still prefer the 2D stories when it comes to the last year Christmas episode that I talked about than this. And while I understand that the purpose of this episode is virtual reality where the characters need to celebrate Christmas but at the same time have to deal with the consequences when it comes to the enemies, but on the other hand, if they didn't have an alternative on doing a Christmas episode that has the same animation style as last year's Christmas episode that I reviewed, yes, I'm fully aware that the Christmas episode came out in 2019, then I don't know what else to say. The thing is, when shows do multiple Christmas episodes rather than one, they usually try to do something different, and while I understand that this episode is trying to do something different, it's the different that I just do not prefer. You see, the reason onto why I do not like these directions is not because of how cheap the animation is with it being a TV budget, but it's mainly the fact that with the 3D itself, it kind of translates the story being a lot too predictable in comparison to 2D animation storytelling. Granted, I'm not a critic when it comes to those types of material, but whenever I see this, when it comes to Mr. Extras being mostly a side character for Tilly to have dialogue with, it kind of feels like it's trying to showcase Tilly's character on what she does during the Christmas season, since that she is different than Cricket, but at the same time, it just isn't enough, and it just doesn't work with this 3D animation. Like, I understand that Mr. Extras only appears in this game, and he does contribute more towards the end of the episode, but at the same time, I really felt like that it would have been a lot more better if the story had a different direction when it comes to the characters dealing with the situation right away, rather than having the whole "it was all Cricket's fault," which is similar to Lincoln being blamed from the Loud House. Like, I understand that Cricket and Lincoln are completely different characters, but at the same time, it's way too predictable to see Cricket in this position on just hiding a secret from his family, even though that them wanting to enjoy a peaceful Christmas is what they all wanted. But for me personally, with all the crazy stuff that they went through, this isn't really new to them, and this is virtual reality, and this is nowhere near as the farming game that Bill played back in Level Up from Season 2. But with that being said, after watching all the episodes, in comparison to my experience from the show from last year's, I'm gonna be truthfully honest when it comes to Cricket being a troublemaker, but also likable at the end. I need to be really honest with you. I honestly found that this revelation or this conflict with him being mostly rooting against when it comes to his family not liking what is really going on is way too predictable. Like, it's nowhere near as bad as Lincoln being exposed, but at the same time, it's still too predictable. And the only reason on to why that this is less bad in comparison to the experiences that I have from the Loud Tales is the fact that the characters are actually likable in their own way rather than being flannerized. Like, even though that we have Season 4 and the characters could be flannerized, but I don't know. But just seeing this resolution, it's nothing new, and it just doesn't make the episode any better. The only credit that I can give towards this conflict between Cricket and his family is the fact that it took the family traditions a lot more seriously when it comes to the characters having sense and meaning to them. Like, if they ever get flannerization, I'm pretty sure that the flannerization would have nothing to do with them being down to earth and mostly civilized in comparison to the Loud family. I would probably do a comparison involving a Loud House episode with an episode from this, but at the same time, it's still debatable, and what I have in store for next year may be mixed. I'm just saying that with these ideals, when it comes to family decisions and translating them into a scenario where you need to do something right for your family but also for yourself, is honestly part of Cricket's character, which kinda works, but at the same time, I still wasn't expecting a lot from this episode. I understand that this review just isn't my cup of tea when it comes to my opinions towards this show, but with it being another show that I actually binge watched from beginning to end, well, aside from Season 4, all I have to say is that this isn't any newer than what I experienced, and to tell you the truth, the execution isn't bad, but at the same time, if it had a different direction, I'm pretty sure that it would have been a lot more better. I understand that Big City Greens isn't supposed to be a wholesome show like other shows, and it's supposed to be its own thing, but at the same time, I just felt like that I prefer the Christmas episode that I reviewed last year in comparison to this. Because believe me, every time I see new material involving Christmas episodes from shows, all I can think of is, I want to review it now, so I'm ahead of the game, but at the same time, I'm not really ahead of the game after my mistake of reviewing A Loud House Christmas 2 years ago, and judging of how I went through a lot of stress into having reconsiders, then it's probably best to review this episode this year and give my honest thoughts about it. Like, if you like this episode, that's perfectly fine. But keep in mind, by this time on my schedules of Christmas, it's not going to be the same, since that the videos that I have in store centering around Christmas aren't going to be as exciting in comparison to the other schedules that I've uploaded. Granted, you could prove me wrong on what you feel about these videos, but keep in mind, my passion of making the schedule just isn't the same as it was in the previous years. There's always going to be a point where schedules are just going to be less exciting in comparison to the earlier schedules. I'm giving this episode a 6 out of 10.